Whoa, this is the Illusion reporting from somewhere on Spaceship Earth. I'm taking Owl to a play date with his little buddy, Dusty. They were both born at the same time. They're like best buddies. And Dusty is my best friend's baby. You remember Skylar? I used to live with Skylar. Earlier Illusion episodes. So anyway, I was watching the epically latered Keith Kirchart. I don't know if I ever get his name right. Keith Kirchart's epically latered, right? And you know, he's like the gnarliest. And he's a total like trippy dude. Very interesting. And I love the fact that he just quit skateboarding after launching on the mega ramp. It's pretty badass, dude. So I'm watching him, right? And you know, he's got this whole new thing where and if you don't know who I'm talking about a skateboarder, and you can go to Epically Latered and watch the little documentary about him, dude. Very interesting guy. And it's kind of unprecedented that he just quit skateboarding at the top of his game. So he quit skateboarding at the top of his game. And then he started doing all these like oddball adventures. Like he rode his bike across the country, and he climbed El Capitan. He whitewater rafted the Colorado River. You're like, oh, okay, yeah. No, he didn't know how to do any of it. He just went and bought a bike with his buddy, and they each rode across the country. They weren't bicycle riders. They went and bought a raft and provisioned it all out, and they weren't rafting guys. They went by themselves. That's what I mean is, so this dude's taken on these challenges. And so right now, I don't know if he's still doing it or he's done. He's rowing a boat with his buddy down the Sia Cortez, which is the eastern side of the Baja Peninsula. And he just was sitting at a bar with his buddy drinking one night, like, let's row the boat down the eastern side of the Sia Cortez. Rowing a boat like 600 miles, dude. That's madness. So I'm watching his thing last night, and I'm like, wow, that dude's gnarly. And then I'm thinking about how gnarly he is and how like radical that is. And then I'm thinking about the day I had. So I'm doing the homeschooling with the Minigram, and I got Owl with me. You know, I'm the stay-at-home dad / teacher, all of it. And the Minigram's been giving me some trouble. And Pastor Tony out there, and you fellow homeschoolers probably know this, but so she's 12. This is the 7th grade. We're homeschooling, and she's just giving me grief, dude. She's a smart kid too. And the thing is, so like, for example, today, so I have her reading the Red Badge of Courage, right? She's reading the Red Badge of Courage because I was like, let's start with, you know, the Civil War. We'll start our history with the Civil War because I think it's relevant to what's going on in this country today. We'll start with the Civil War, and you know, it's a good place that's not too far. It's the mid 1800s. It's a place where I'm very knowledgeable about. I've been reading a lot about. So I was like, I broke out because we can do some geography. So this morning, for example, I broke out the atlas and I was like trying to see how much she knew. And I was like, tell me where Georgia is. And she didn't know where Georgia was. So these kids coming out of public education don't know where the states are. They don't know where the state capitals are. They're very, that's half the reason we pulled her from public school, is they're just making them dumb and ignorant. So the Minigram, she's a real smart kid, but like, she doesn't know. And so she was super like been super grumpy, like I'm torturing her, dude. And like, dude, I'm like we're not making her do much. So we were making like the plan for what we were doing today, yesterday, and it was the full just like bitterness, crunch face, and she was like laying some trip on me, and I was talking about it to the hologram after. I was like, this is kind of lame, because I'm coming to the game with full like, yeah, dude, I'm going to educate this child to give her an advantage over the rest of the world, because if you know and you're awake, you know that the public education system's all about making our children into slaves and making them unable to function in the world, dude. So I'm all about like giving this child knowledge so that she can, and teaching her how to think and logic and reason and all this kind of stuff. And like she's in resistance to it. And I was thinking about like Heath Kirchart and his gnarly adventures. I was like, I want to go do something like that. And then I sat and I was like, the gnarliest adventure ever is going to be trying to educate the minigram. Dude, talk about climbing El Capitan or whitewater rafting the Colorado. Like, sit with a 12-year-old girl who's been in public education and get her excited about learning about stuff. Oh my goodness. You know, because I love knowledge. So we were talking about it today, you know, because we started off today, you know, we were getting it going. And we were talking about like why it's important to know where her things are. So we were talking about the recent hurricanes. Her grandmother lives in Tallahassee. And I was recalling that when the hurricane was heading to Houston, she was worried about her grandmother. And I was like, this is why they want you ignorant, so you live in fear. Like, because lack of knowledge equals fear. It's the same reason we have her taking jujitsu lessons right now, is so she doesn't have to be afraid of strangers. So she can basically disarm and maim anyone who could possibly threaten her. Yeah, that's the kind of homeschooling program I'm about. Jiu-jitsu, archery, Civil War, and some math, a lot of reading. I'm all about the reading. So I was talking to her about how it must be to be young and look at the map of the United States and where your grandmother is, and find out where Tallahassee is versus Houston versus where we live in Malibu, and go, whoa, I don't know anything. And so we were talking about it, when she looks at the map of the United States, it makes her afraid because she doesn't know anything on it. And the more, like, you know, there's like a learning curve where like the more you learn, the more you know, the less, how does it go? The more you learn, the less you know. I think that's it. So like the more I read in my brain, the more I realize I don't know anything about anything. And I'm a guy who's all about educating myself. So I was talking to her this morning, and because we got to figure out like why she's in such resistance to learn, and it's all fear. It's like they've got these kids conditioned into this like catch-22. They're afraid. The answer to fear is knowledge, but the more they know, the more they learn, the less they know, which gets them afraid because they've got all these kids afraid. It's so trippy hanging out with the minigram and talking to her about stuff. These kids are afraid of the world, man. They've got like the public education. So anyway, I don't want to make this about the public education system. I was making this about how like I'm on the gnarliest adventure I've ever been, because I was sitting there overwhelmed last night, because I'm like, how am I going to teach this kid if every time she shows up and it's like I'm like making her like scrub a floor. Like that's the way she approaches it. Like I'm making her like scrub a floor every time he doesn't like the almonds in his oatmeal. And so I was like, wow, this is going to be kind of a drag, dude. And then I remembered like what Heath was talking about. He's like, you know, an adventure that goes smoothly doesn't count. And it only makes it an adventure if there's there's chaos and drama in the sense of problem solving, like not drama between people, drama like, you know, he was talking about how, like, you know, he's rowing the boat and the boat got a leak and they got to figure out how to get the boat to stop leaking, but they're not going to quit their adventure. It's just like perseverance, how you persevere. And he was talking about how the hard times are the times he remembers most, because that's when he truly was able to shine, I suppose. I'm paraphrasing him. And so I'm realizing this journey of educating my daughter is radical, man. Wow, teachers are underpaid, man, and it's too bad the teachers have totally capitulated to the system. All you teachers out there, man, we need you, dude, but we don't need you pumping their curriculum. We need to make these kids smart. Teach them how to use a dictionary. Teach them how to read a book, man. I don't know, it's so gnarly, it's so heavy what's going on. Like I'm pretty, I would say, like, I'm in way over my head on this homeschooling thing. And it's not because I'm afraid of the information. It's that this interface with this child who's afraid of the information confuses me. I just grew up in a different time where, like, learning was celebrated. Like, I'm a believer, man, of education. I'm all about filling the mind and having the mind fire and think about, like, higher thoughts and stuff. And it's radical to realize that this young child is afraid of knowledge, because the more she learns, the less she knows. And that terrifies this girl. And I'm like, this is what they're teaching them in public schools. I'm like, wow. Anyway, I'm on a gnarly adventure right now. It's pretty heavy, but we're gonna persevere, dude. I'm gonna make a smart, logical, reasoning human being out of this young child who I love. That's what I was telling her today. I was like, look, man, I'm not doing any of this because I'm bored. I'm doing this because I believe in giving you the advantage over all these other kids that are going through the public education system. Like, I just see it now. Like, it's becoming more clearer and clearer every day how detrimental our public education system is to the future of spaceship Earth. Knowledge is power, man. Knowledge is power. Anyway, it's The Illusion on the way to a play date.